Happy Friday, ambitious readers. Welcome back to another edition of Reading Ambitiously, where every single week we bring you the most powerful ideas that are shaping our world. We've got a really audacious edition in store for you this week. And the big idea is how I am using AI in my daily life. Now, if there is one question that my friends and my family and our readers are asking me more than ever, it is, Jack, how are you using AI? And that was a question that came up from a close friend. We were sitting around the kitchen counter last Saturday night. I think it's metaphorically on a lot of your minds because the world is rapidly changing and AI is suddenly everywhere. And there's this sense that potentially you're falling behind or that you don't know how to use this technology like your peers or that everyone's figured it out. Well, I'm here to tell you that is not the case. We've not all figured it out. It's extremely early, and there's a huge opportunity to figure out how to start using AI in your daily life. And I'm going to show you how I'm using it in mind today. In fact, there's a new Gallup poll recently out that says 50% of Americans at their jobs now have access to AI, but something only like 28% of them are using it frequently, and 13% of them are using it on a daily basis. And what are they doing with it? Well, they're using it like a better version of Google, certainly Search 2.0, but really only 0.04% of the world's population has used the most powerful forms of it. So it is incredibly early, and there's a huge opportunity to be the person inside of your organization that figures out how to use this technology because AI is so much more powerful than a search engine. And no doubt, I use it like a search engine too. Earlier today, I said, how many days are there until Mother's Day? And I got a very precise response because it's on my mind. It's coming up next month and I've got to get ready for it. That's a better version of Google. But the real leverage comes when you use AI like your personal assistant, because that creates actual leverage where you can delegate real tasks to it. And very few people are using it that way. So let's talk about how to get started, because I think all of you have access to products from at least one or more of the big four. You've got OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, Anthropic's Claude, and xAI's Grok. And you don't need access to all four. I certainly do, and I've got all of them on my phone, and I use them all interchangeably. But that's because I'm so excited and interested in this technology, but you just need a couple. And you might need a premium version of one and a free version of the others to get by inside of your AI stack. In my AI stack, ChatGPT is the daily driver, and it has been for some time. I think it is the all-around best experience on mobile and desktop. It has the best user interface, and I think it has the most robust set of generally purpose available AI tools like deep research. Gemini is especially useful as well because it lives inside of the Google Workspace. So if you're doing a lot with Google Sheets or Gmail, and of course, it's got access to native Google search, it can be really good at those things. From Anthropic, as you all know, I'm a huge fan of Claude Code. I use Claude every single day to build the ambitious OS and to build a lot of software. And I love using Grok because it's got access to the headlines and access to all the tweets on X. You don't need all four of these, but you do need to understand what each of them is good at and use them for those things. Now, one practical tip that I have to offer as a best practice is that as you start to use LLMs, you use your voice. The best way to use LLMs is to talk to them. And I find that most of my usage starts with a 2 to 3 minute voice memo. And there are a lot of ways you can do that. The LLMs now have a microphone button that you can click with some native text to voice dictation capabilities. There are paid products like Whisperflow that you could check out. But I'm telling you, the best way to use LLMs is to use them with your voice. So don't miss on the opportunity to do that. Also, don't miss on what I think are two of the most important concepts that you got to keep in mind to use these systems effectively. And that's context and prompts. So before I get started with any AI project, I think about these two things. And I start with context because the model can only work with what it knows. So before I ever type anything, I think a lot about what the model needs to know, almost similar to what my human brain would need to know if I was approaching a task. And I think of the context as essentially the model's working memory at runtime. And what I like to do is I like to create a folder on the desktop and put every single thing that could possibly be relevant to the task at hand inside of that folder. It's like my metaphorical table at the library where I've opened up all the books to the right chapters and the right articles before I'm going to get started writing my research project. You want the model to have good context. And one small tip that I can offer to you is that when you change tasks, you certainly want to start a new chat because context is useful until it becomes a distraction. And you want to do a good job curating the richest context possible. The second is to think about your prompt. If you give the model a better input, you're going to get a better output. If you ask the model a really good question, you're going to get the best possible output. I think a lot of people overcomplicate prompting. The best trick that I can teach you is to ask the AI to help you come up with the prompt. Tell the AI that, hey, I want you to help me write this prompt for this particular task. I'm going to paste in a bunch of different notes and drafts and maybe a 2 to 3 minute voice memo, and you will be surprised at how good the AI is at turning messy context into a clear instruction set for these models. Now, I also have to suggest, before we get into some use cases, the best way to start is in an area where you already have expertise. Because as you use the model, you already, in a lot of cases, know what good looks like. When you think about the Ambitious OS, it is a software AI-driven version of reading ambitiously. It is a mirror of me, its creator. And so when you're thinking about using AI, I would suggest that you use it for tasks that you are already an expert in so that you know what good looks like. And the model can just help you get there faster. Now, the hardest part is not understanding the theory behind AI. It is simply just working AI into your daily, ordinary life and getting started, which is why my suggestion to you is to do that with a to-do list. Now, if you're anything like me, I love to-do lists. And I have tried every single application that there is available to make more efficient lists. But my favorite way to do it is with a pen and with a paper and with my trusty notebook where I sit down every single day and I do all of the thinking. And I'm often reminded of this great story about JP Morgan when a man came up to him on the street and said, "Mr. Morgan, I've got the secret to success in this envelope and it's $10,000. Mr. Morgan said, "Well, I'd like to look at the contents of that envelope. And if I agree with you, I'll give you the $10,000. Well, the man handed over the envelope and inside of it was one single piece of paper with a sentence that said, "Wake up every day, make a list and do it." Mr. Morgan agreed and handed the man $10,000. So let's start with that advice because that's usually where my day begins. And I imagine for a lot of you, your day begins with a to-do list like this. And here are 5 things that were on my to-do list earlier this week. Where the AI handoff occurs is when I snap a picture of that to-do list on my phone and I give it to ChatGPT and I say, "Hey, turn this into a plan and let's talk about the things that you can do on this plan." From there, the work starts to take shape. One of these things becomes a research brief, another becomes a prioritization project, one becomes a cleanup job that I've been putting off. And in a few cases, some of these are going to actually evolve into systems that I want to persist. So I'll jump into Claude Code and start building software. So let's talk about 5 examples of the week that was, or the day that was with AI. The first is I'm attending a conference and I've been given the conference attendee list. Right now, I've got 450 names on a spreadsheet, which are nothing but really just a bunch of rows. So I start by giving ChatGPT the file, giving ChatGPT the agenda for the conference and some information about what I want to get done at the conference and a prompt that says something along the lines of, "Hey, ChatGPT, I'm headed to a conference and there's 451 people registered. Help me break this list down and prioritize the people that I should care the most about. Go on the internet and find their LinkedIns and give me a short note on why each one of these matter and help me start to draft some outreach and some communication so that I can set up 15 or 20 meetings at this conference." I'm now, within a matter of minutes, reviewing 20 decisions that I need to make. The second is, and related, is the meeting brief. This is one of my favorite use cases for AI in my daily life. I gather the emails, the notes, the research, the background, everything I know about the meeting that I'm about to have. Then I put that into a metaphorical folder on my desktop, and then I hand that over to ChatGPT and I say something like, "Hey, I have an important meeting coming up and I'm uploading the background here. Put together a brief for me, give me some key themes, what's changed recently, help me know what to watch out for, give me 5 questions I should be ready for, and draft a point of view. And oh, by the way, I want you to go out on the internet and read every single headline that you possibly can about these attendees and their companies so that I've got the latest and greatest news." What comes back is usually much more of a complete view of the room that I'm walking into, and I can do this one end to end in ChatGPT. The third is the mailing list. How many of us have got mailing lists like this that are no longer up to date? Perhaps it was our wedding invitation list that we want to use for this year's Christmas cards, And it sits around as an old spreadsheet that's completely outdated with random fixes scattered across text messages and emails. This isn't hard work. It's just drudgerous. And frankly, it's annoying. So I give ChatGPT the list and I say, hey, ChatGPT, this mailing list is, I'm giving you some old Excel files. I'm giving you some emails and some text messages. I want you to reconcile this thing and I want you to use all the best practices to clean this thing up, maybe even use the standardized format on mint.com and flag anything that needs my human oversight. And oh, by the way, I want the final output of this in Microsoft Excel, which ChatGPT does perfectly. And what comes back to me is a cleaned up file ready to go. The fourth is a trip that I'm planning for, which is a perfect example of something AI handles really well. Dates, preferences, who's going to be there, budgets, meetings, travel time, logistics. These are like 15 Chrome tabs in my life today. But with ChatGPT, you say something along the lines of, hey, I'm getting ready for a trip, need your help planning it. Here are my dates, where I need to be, who's coming, what meetings I want to have. Give me a plan. Let's start with flights and hotels. Then help me map out the trip so I'm not wasting time bouncing around. What comes back may not be the final answer, but it's hours worth of research in a strong first draft. And finally, the follow-up. And I think this is where a lot of knowledge work actually fails. Sometimes you just got to know to follow up. So maybe you've attended one of those conferences. You've got notes on your phone, you got business cards, you got partial memory, you've got some intent to follow up, but ChatGPT is going to help you do it by giving it all this information in a context window and saying, hey, I just got back from the conference. I'm uploading my notes. Here are the people I met. Help me group them by priority, draft some follow-up emails and suggest some next steps. And immediately you get a prioritized list and plan back. So where do all these tools fit? Because everyone's asking me right now, Jack, where do I use AI? And they're asking about which tools, but I think the best way to think about it is in what is your system? What is your AI stack? And these things are layers. Some of the work is thinking, some of the work is doing, some of it's actually building software that persists or agents that automate. And that's where Claude Code can come into handy. And that's where I use Claude Code when I know that I'm moving from a one-time task that ChatGPT is good at to something that I'll do over and over again. And I start to think about, well, if I build software to help me do this, maybe it'll give me leverage because it's a task that I'm going to repeat. Perhaps it's the conference list, which is the example I'm showing you here, where we have a prioritization system that helps me make this repeatable for every conference that I'm going to attend in 2026. Ultimately, when I step back, it's about giving the model good context, giving it a great prompt so that there's clarity, and using the right tool for the job. That is the key to using AI wisely. And while half of people have tried AI, most of them are still using it like a better version of Google. The shift is when you can hand off and actually move to systems that give you leverage. And to my friend at the kitchen counter, that's the real key. The answer is not in what AI tool you use, it's in thinking differently about your work. And it's starting with a simple list. Maybe it's your to-do list and asking a simple question. What can the AI do for me? That's what I challenge you to give a try this week. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Please do take care of each other, ambitious readers. We'll see you again for next week's edition of Reading Ambitiously.